fooling around.
Okay. So
And I watched your last video with what was her name again?
Premdas or
No, it was a woman, the
yeah.
girl.
Oh, was it
You
Shakti?
forget already. But anyway, that was a good interview. I mean, you're starting to loosen up a little. You know, you're getting the hang of the interview game, right? Do you feel you are? I
Yeah.
think you are, but I'm telling you, it's a lot easier to be on your end than to be on my end, where I got to answer questions. I'd
Oh,
rather ask questions.
sure.
Then you ask a question, you sit there for 20 minutes, and someone answers, and then during those 20 minutes, you're doing a crossword puzzle, and then oh yeah, okay, what's enlightenment? Next question. Anyway, I'll let you go ahead.
Okay. So
Well, I feel like I'm interviewing you. Okay,
okay.
go for it.
Okay. Yeah. So thanks a lot for joining, and as usual, I am a little late. Lot of traffic, and always something happens that is not expected.
Oh, what part of Southern California are you?
I am near San Francisco.
Oh, I thought Southern California. You're San Francisco.
Yeah, yeah, near.
Well, all of California is just one freeway. So, but
Okay.
you found your exit. You got off. You got home. You're here. How come I don't have any notes on the whiteboard behind you? Everyone else has notes. Do I have
Yeah.
any notes?
No, no.
Why not? I want notes.
Okay, next time.
Next time.
Okay. So we can take it two ways. Either we can ask like few questions that I mailed, or we can just ask any question.
What do you want to know? I mean, do you really want to know stuff about me? I'd like to know about you. You've been on Non-duality-Salon group for longer than anybody. I mean, just about. And
Yeah.
one of the questions you wrote me was, what do I think of various people? Dan and Schman and Zan and Fran and everybody. And you probably know them better than I do. You interact with them. You tussle with them.
Yeah, sure.
But
Yeah.
I don't really care about those people anyway. I'm really just, thought we can just talk. But whatever you
Yeah.
want us to ask or do is okay.
Sure. Okay. So one thing is that I'm sure many people already know you, but there are many who do not know you. So
Some
if
of these young kids, I'm sorry, go ahead, man.
so if you can introduce yourself and give some background, some information. As far as I know, you have been one of the pioneer, founder, starting member on non-duality on internet before you started NondualitySalon or nonduality.com or a few other sites. There were not much talk about non-duality on internet. Nowadays it seems to be pretty common in a spiritual circle. But when you started, probably it was very new, very unusual. So if you can put some background on how you got started and what got you started in non-duality in first place. I mean, what got you interested in it? And I will mute myself so that I can focus on listening.
Thanks, Arvind. And yeah, thanks for inviting me and everything. Yeah, no, I always been interested in just awareness and stuff. And as a kid, I wrote an article just published in this month's One the Magazine. You go to onethemagazine.com. It's a very professional publication. I wrote an article about experiences in my life and so on. So, at some point you come to where I just came to a point where I had this great urge to talk about non-duality to people, to a public. But I didn't know anything about how to do that. I didn't know about the internet. And somehow I stumbled into the internet. My wife at the time was very ill, terminally ill. And I would keep telling her, I really feel like I need to talk about this stuff. And she would always say, well, you will. Someday you will. And then I would say, how? Who's going to listen to me? I'm not a speaker or anything. I'm not that extroverted. And she would always say, well, you will. You'll find a way. She said, after I die, you'll find a way. And she passed away in June of '98. And in May of '98, we actually started the I Am list. The I Am list then became Non-duality-Salon, which you're so active on. The I Am list started in May of '98. In August of '98, we started Non-duality-Salon. That was an amazing year or two, the first year or two. Were you there in that first year or two? I don't remember. No, it was ridiculous. And yeah, I found out about the internet, and my wife was right. I started to talk about it. But what I found that I really enjoyed doing was, well, what happens is that there are so many smart people, so many enlightened, realized people. You know what it's like on Non-duality Salon. That, I just kind of deferred to everyone else and made space for everyone, tried to make space for everyone. In 1998, 99, there was only one email group for non-duality. So try to imagine a Facebook group, one Facebook group, where everyone interested in non-duality has to be on that group, where you have thousands and thousands of people on one Facebook group, and everyone jostling for position, trying to say their thing, trying to one-up someone else. It would be a pressure cooker. It would be insane. And that's what Non-duality Salon email forum was like in its first year or two. It was insane. You had people like Greg Good, Dan Burko, Gene Poole, Judy Rhodes, coming down out of nowhere. It was a pressure cooker. It was insane. It was really, anyone who went through that first year or two went through a mill. You went through a mill. Everyone coming at you. So that's kind of how I got into it. Began with a childhood interest, and then out of nowhere, an urge to talk about it. Discovery of the internet, and then starting to talk about it on different groups. And finally, we started our own group, Non-duality Salon, and Non-duality Salon is still going strong. You're a very active part of it. You're still posting actively, and so are many others who have been there since the beginning. It's an amazing group. But right now, it's a private. I made it private. I didn't want to moderate it anymore, so it's just a bunch of good old boys there, and I don't really bring anyone else in. It's just what it is. But I don't know. Did that inspire any other questions from you?
Yeah, sure. So thanks. Yeah.
I do interviews I do. Sometimes I'll say, look, I have no idea what to ask next, and I think that's a real cool place to be. I'm not interested in you. I have no idea what to ask. So if you want to do that, that's okay.
No, that's fine. So no, I have a lot of questions. I'm sure there won't be enough time. So don't worry about questions. So you told me or us about...
turn to the side again. You have a good profile. Just turn your head to the side again.
Sure.
Stay there for a couple of seconds. Really, you're a good-looking guy. Yeah, he's a good-looking guy. He's Arvind. I'm not that great looking,
Yeah, I remember you...
Hey, I want to plug my radio show. It's on Wednesdays, 12:30 Eastern Time, with the brilliant and lovely Mandy LaBelle, my partner. And people can go to nonduality.net and find out the info on our radio show. It's on Wednesdays. Tomorrow. I got to do this. I got to do a radio show. I'm busy. Okay, go ahead, man. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, so you told us how you got started on internet regarding non-duality. But how did you hear about non-duality or came across non-duality? Or how did you even hear this word called non-duality or this concept? How it came into your life, like how you realized it, awakened to it, or read about it, or heard about it?
I appreciate your asking that, because I've told the story a couple times. I was sitting in a restaurant at a counter, and I've always had an interest in non-duality without knowing the word. And a guy was sitting next to me. He had a big leather-bound book, large book, oversized book. And I just was glancing over to it, and I had an urge to just ask him, like, what is that book? I looked curious. He didn't want to be bothered with me, so he just kind of seemed like he wanted to ignore me. But then he kind of took to sort of thinking, going back and forth, like, I got to get rid of this guy, but I got to give him an answer. First, I asked him, what are you reading? He said, it's the Upanishads, or one of the Upanishads. I said, well, what's that about? Because I wasn't that familiar with it. So then he starts, I got to get rid of this guy. I'm trying to have my lunch, and he wants to know what the Upanishads are about. So he suddenly turns to me and he says, non-duality. Well, someone tells you that word you've never heard of, but he says it with such a way that I knew it had meaning. I just was like this. It was like something had been blown at me, like an explosion. I didn't ask him anything after that, I don't think. I just knew I was given something. And after that, I just looked up the word and I saw more of it. And so I pursued it further. But that guy, his name was George. Don't know what happened to George. If you're out there, George, I'll buy you lunch. Yeah, and that's how I heard the word non-duality. But and then I realized that non-duality was it was really confined to academia and scriptures. And so when I learned about the internet, then I realized I could really just have some fun with non-duality, just because I myself never had a teacher, I wasn't really steeped in the academic part of non-duality, so I didn't care. I wasn't answering to anybody, so I just went out there and put it out there. So my objective then became to talk about non-duality, but in a way that was accessible and on the level of the streets. So what happened is non-duality, the word changed. Since the internet introduced the word non-duality, the word changed, and you got words like non-dualist. I don't know if that was really a word before non-duality became popularized. Non-dualist, non-dualize, non-dualish, non-duality America is a website. Street non-duality, non-dual people, and non-duality became conversational. And I was, I think it must have been in 2003, I read a blog entry where some guy's writing about his day, and he's saying, well, we had breakfast, we fed the dog, we went out and fixed the swing, we talked about non-duality, we planted some vegetables. It was like, and that blog post told me non-duality was conversational, it was every day. And I thought that was great just to see that.
So regarding non-duality itself, I have talked to, read, or met two kind of people, or three kind actually. One who say that if you just read about Advaita or non-duality, if you just understand the concept, if you just understand that me, I, person that you think you are, is an illusion, is a thought, is a story. It's not real. Reality, whatever you call it like any name, God, Allah, Ishwar, whatever, Rama, Krishna, is only one. Or don't even have to count it or say it's one or two or multiple. But reality is, and everything else is that is appearing as a person, is an illusion, is a character, just like a character in your dream last night. And once you know that, intellectually, logically, you are done. There's nothing to get, there's nothing to experience. Anytime you have this illusion again, just question it. Realize that you might appear real to yourself. This person might appear real, but in reality, it's just a fiction. It's just an imagination. It's a thought form that we are creating now. So I met people who think of it that way. And I have met people who think that just intellectual understanding is not enough. You have to really experience it. They call it awakening. They call it enlightenment experience. They call it samadhi, sahaja samadhi. You have to be in that state where you realize that mind, body, everything has disappeared. Still as consciousness, as awareness, whatever is your root core reality is still there. And third group who say that both of them are necessary. We have to experientially, at the level of experience, feeling, existence, have to really get into that, feel it, and then intellectually, logically understand what it really means. So I would like to get like your take on it.
Well, I mean, everyone's on their own pursuit. And I think that if I'm going to talk to that, then I really need to refer to my own experience or my own knowing. I mean, I can repeat stuff I've read about or that I've heard about or that I know from what people might have told me, but the question is kind of like what's enlightenment or self-realization, and I think you've hit on at least a couple of the. I mean, it's crazy to say non-duality has a couple of different aspects, but it does. It goes towards how you define non-duality. My definition has always been like a big circus tent approach, where anything having to do with oneness I call non-duality. It's not right, but it makes it easy for people to get into that tent. That's kind of what my purpose. So when it comes to knowing yourself, my experience is that you can understand yourself as what I've called I am, my I amness, my sense of being, and then and live from that totally. And the only way you know you're living from it totally or stabilized in it is that you're never reminded of it. You know, you're never surprised. Oh yeah, I'm the I am. Yeah, right. I forgot about that. You know, and if that never happens, it never can happen. That tells me there's some, so-called stabilization in that. And that's a good place to live life from. Because your main attention, your main focus is just on being itself, just on the fact that you are. Anyone can achieve that. It's just a matter of getting a hold of your sense of being, the fact that you exist, and focus on it, just make it important, and value it, and really value it. If you don't really value it, it doesn't matter, and no law says you have to. But if you really value it, then just pay attention to it. Keep paying attention to it. And then that stabilization happens. There's no surprises. You don't forget it. And you don't remember it. It just is. Then at some point, maybe that I am, that whole sense of I am, that whole sense of being can kind of dissolve or disappear. It's just no longer there. You can't. It's just not there anymore. And I think that's kind of another leap beyond. I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure what word to put on that. But it's just, it's not even being. I was talking to Galen Sharp, who wrote a great book, What Am I? And he calls it amness. Instead of I amness, amness, if the I kind of drops away. But I don't know how that can be achieved. I mean, there's a way you can kind of achieve a stability in I am through attentional practices, processes. But as far as going beyond that, and I think Greg Good in his book, what was it? Practice. I can't think of. Sorry, Greg.
Resting as awareness.
No, direct. I have to go to my website and see what it is.
And that's anyway, fine. I mean, people can Google it.
So, and I think he actually has a way where you can actually drop that I of the I amness. One of the few people that I noticed talked about it in a way you can understand. But most people say it's just grace to have the I drop out of I amness. And that's not necessary. None of that's necessary. But I think it is good if you value it to pursue that I am. I think anyone watching this kind of interview would be interested in that. Unless they're here just to see two good-looking guys. One anyway. It's entirely possible.
Yeah.
I want to see two hot guys.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I
Almost all.
think Ben Affleck is in great danger now.
What? What?
I'm saying that Ben Affleck,
And Matt, what's his name?
Matt Damon,
The other guy, Matt Damon.
yeah, in great danger.
We're
Okay,
living in a fantasy world. We have no idea what we're talking about. You know, we're living in a total movie Hollywood fantasy, and we're trying to talk about reality.
okay. So yeah, so now I'm going to ask, one question that might appear tough. At least it is considered tough by many people.
A tough question?
Yeah.
I don't feel I got to go. I'm not feeling the. Okay, no, go ahead.
No, but you don't have to answer it. It's up to you. I'll ask it, but you don't have to answer it. And then I'll ask a follow-up question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So my tough question is, do you consider yourself enlightened?
Oh yeah, big time. No, no, I don't. No, I don't. No, quite frankly. But do I consider myself unenlightened and separate? I mean, what's it like to feel separate? I mean, what do I have to do to feel separate? I got to sort of be like this and, okay, I feel separate. I'm separate. I'm separate from other things. I'm really, really separate. I feel separate. So, I mean, you sort of have to force yourself to feel separate. And I don't have to force myself to feel that all this, just is or whatever. So that's probably where I'm coming from. And I don't know, people can call that whatever they want to call that. But I think if if the fact that you're aware, you're conscious, you're present, you're being, if that's in the forefront of your life, then that's what it is. And people can call that enlightened, halfway up the mountain, and 3/4 up the mountain, 3/4 down the mountain, breaking your leg on the mountain, whatever. People can call it what they want. So yeah, I don't consider myself, that feeling of separateness, I have to struggle for, and it's a great strain on me. It's killing my back. I'm going to sue you. No, I'm only kidding. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So I have two follow-up questions. So one is, do you consider anyone, Ramana Maharshi, Eckhart Tolle, Byron Katie, Jiddu Krishnamurti, Osho, whatever name, do you consider Jesus Christ, Buddha, U.G. Krishnamurti, do you consider anybody enlightened?
No, I consider them great communicators, brilliant artists, geniuses of communication, of enlightenment culture, great leaders of people, probably great managers of people. They're great people, but their own sense of what they are, that I am I'm talking about, it can't be any different. It can't be different than yours or mine. How's it going to be different? Does it have, fireworks coming out of it, or it's no different. It's just no different. I mean, when I was a kid in going to Hebrew school, the teacher would talk about the great religious leaders of the Old Testament, and I knew as a kid, as a 12-year-old kid, that I was the same as they were, and I just didn't care. I just didn't listen about Moses or Abraham or the great religious leaders. I just knew that I was the same as they are, and I didn't mean the same as being, Moses, or standing on a mountain. I don't mean the same as accomplishment-wise or skill-wise or talent-wise or anything like that. Not on the level of capabilities, but I knew on the level that I am, and they too can say I am, and there's no difference there. But there's great differences in how we, our gifts, our skills, our abilities, how we live our lives. There's tremendous differences. So I respect all those Ramanas and all those people for their genius.
So I was driving in traffic about like half an hour and 45 minutes earlier, and there was a lot of traffic, and I was getting irritated, and I was trying many things, like I was trying to breathe deeply, breathe out deeply.
Yeah.
I was trying self-inquiry. I was trying to think what like Ramana would do in this situation, what somebody like Eckhart Tolle would do in this situation. And for a while, for 1 minute, 2 minutes, I will be very peaceful, very quiet. Then again, I would get irritated. And then suddenly, I exited the freeway, and then traffic was pretty good. And all of a sudden, I was feeling very happy, very relaxed, without any inquiry, without doing anything. And all the whatever noise, problem went away. And I was thinking about it. And I was even thinking that I'm going to ask you why that happens and what would be an enlightened or wise or sane response to such a thing, such as traffic jam or any other problem in which we or most humans feel irritated, feel uneasy.
And I'm glad you asked me because I know and you don't. No, I'm only kidding. Well, the mistake isn't having a car in the first place. I mean, I don't have a car because I find it very stressful. I just rented a car for the weekend, and I was so glad to drop it off. I hate cars, but I shouldn't say I hate them. I need them once in a while. So I don't know. I think a person has to look at their life and anything that's not necessary, like get rid of it. Now you live in San Francisco, you probably need a car. So I think it's practical just to have breathing techniques that can help you. I was getting anxiety attacks on the bus for a little while. It turned out I was just drinking too much coffee, but the way I handled it, I just had a breathing technique. I would just inhale for like 5 seconds and hold my breath for 5 seconds, exhale for a few seconds, and just do that for a few cycles. And I still use that once in a while. Just something practical. But I don't know if there's any great enlightened way. I mean, you could, maybe the most enlightened thing is simply to enjoy the traffic. But when I had this car for the weekend, yeah, the traffic annoyed me. And it wasn't big traffic. It was like waiting for someone to cross the street. It's like I didn't want to do that. The whole thing was just a hassle. So, yeah, stress, I mean, that's just part of living. But yeah, I mean, if you have a breathing technique that gets you through some of the anxieties, go for it. I don't know if there's any great wisdom there.
Okay. So one thing I also thought at the same time is, so there is one of my friend, and we chat online sometime. His name is George. So he is very big on there being no real free will. I do not think too much about free will, so I haven't really made up my mind on that. But one thing I was thinking is that this irritation, this agitation, I cannot possibly be choosing on my own. I cannot really be choosing or deciding that, hey, I'm going to feel irritated about it. I'm going to feel angry about it, because that would be kind of foolish. It would be kind of like purposely banging my head against the wall. Wall is still there, and if I'm going to bang, most likely I'm going to only hurt myself and make the situation worse. So when I'm internally complaining about the traffic, it is happening without my conscious effort. I'm not choosing it. It is happening to me. We can call it subconscious, we can call it unconscious. So this, at least in this instance, or many such instances, when I'm annoyed, when I'm angry, and especially that anger, that irritation is not really like making the traffic go away or changing the situation. That is something arising inside me, but I am not really doing it. I'm not really choosing it. So that is definitely correct. And so what is your view on like free will, choice?
It's the same thing. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's the same thing as trying to feel separate. Forcing yourself to feel separate. That you feel yourself. You want to kind of squeeze yourself like this. To feel separate. I think free will is a kind of the same thing. You know, I have free will. I'm going to decide to do this. So I'm going to lift this cup. There, I did it. It was free will. You know, I don't know. I guess you can talk yourself into it if you want to believe it. But I don't know. I don't pay attention to whether I have free will or not. I mean, it's just obvious what I need to do, I think, in most cases, and you know, just
So,
do it. I
yeah,
don't
so,
think about free will. Yeah.
okay. So other thing also I thought was that, so I can reason, I can think that perhaps I'm feeling agitated, irritated because my thoughts are that way. Maybe my thoughts are that I need to reach some place. Maybe I will be late for talking to Jerry. And maybe at some level, unconscious level, I'm aware of that. And that's why I'm feeling agitated, irritated. But then I remember that even small kids, even like animals, dogs, cats, if you are traveling with them and if you are stuck in a traffic where there is bumper to bumper traffic or cars are very close to each other, even they feel agitated, even they feel irritated. And I cannot say that they have same kind of thought, same kind of logic going in their mind. So that brought into my attention that perhaps it is very natural. Maybe it's lack of a space. Maybe at one level we think that our personal space is being invaded. So say like even when you are talking, sitting with somebody, and somebody comes very close to you, you feel natural unease, as if like you have lost your space. Even if you go very close to animals start feeling agitated, irritated, or even angry. It might even attack you. So I thought maybe it's just at biological level, at whatever you call it, body level, animal level. It is a real thing. It is a real issue. And no matter how we reason, how we try to get away from it, it's a simple fact, simple reality that when we are congested, we feel slightly irritated. We feel that we don't have enough space. It's like just having breathing space, having air to breathe. So maybe space has a very big impact on us at very deep level. So anytime we have, I mean, so people they go out in open, go out outdoors without doing any like special spiritual thing, they feel better. They feel relaxed, they feel peaceful, at least most of the times. At sea beach, most people are happy. In the wilderness, most people are happy. If you close them in a closed room for a long time, animals get agitated, children get agitated, and even we get agitated. We try to reason it that maybe it's intellectually we are not understanding something, maybe we are doing something wrong. But I'm questioning that maybe there is something intrinsic in us that needs this space, just like we need breathing air. And actually, in place of fighting against it and trying to somehow reason that we should be peaceful even in this kind of confined environment, we should see if there is a way for us to live that is more natural, more harmonious for us.
Hmm. Yeah, it's really nicely said. Yeah, you're just attuning to what's natural. Yeah, sounds like for you. And if it's just natural, you know, maybe let it be. Come from a place where it's just being observed, or coming from a place um, that doesn't feel stress.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the
So,
enlightened way to do it. I gave the unenlightened way of basically taking a tranquilizer, you know, or go through a breathing exercise. But yeah, I think I mean whatever works.
so tell us a little bit about your book, the book that is title one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's called One Essential Writings on Non-Duality. I published that in 2007 with Sentient Publications, Connie Shaw. It was just meant to be, it's just meant to be an extension of my website at the time, nonduality.com, which featured many varieties of expression of non-duality. And the book was just meant to take a fraction of that. And the book, over the years, did well. It was, I guess, at its peak, it reached number 300 on Amazon.com. And it was in every one of the, I guess it's chapters, the chain of bookstores in the States, U.S. Yeah, it was in every one, from like Alaska to Hawaii to Florida to Maine. So the book actually sold, pretty well. Yeah. And at that time, in that year, 2007, I don't think people don't know, but I don't think anyone has ever talked to a larger audience about non-duality than I had the opportunity to do in 2007 on Coast to Coast AM radio. There were millions of listeners to hear about the word non-duality, and almost as many listeners as you're getting on this show. And so, but yeah, that was crazy. 3-hour interview from 3 to 6 in the morning, my time. I'm barely together now at 1 in the afternoon. I mean, I can imagine at 3 in the morning talking. And I never did an interview before. So I've done a lot of them now, but so imagine having no experience and being on at 3 in the morning talking to I don't know how many millions of people. But I got hundreds of emails. I only had 2 or 3 negative ones. And the book, like I said, it went to number 300 on Amazon. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. Definitely.
For Amazon. So, yeah, I don't think anyone's ever used the word non-duality to a larger audience. So that's my one claim to fame.
Okay. So in terms of like, so if you...
Besides my radio show, Nonduality Network, sorry to interrupt, my radio show, I don't want Mandy to get mad at me for not plugging it, Nonduality Network Talk Radio on Wednesdays at 12:30 Eastern Time. Me and Mandy LaBelle, we have a great time. And if anyone, it's a great show.
So if you can like give us a 2-3 minute, I know it's like very short time, but if you can give us 2-3 minute short summary of your book.
I don't know, the book's, I don't know, I mean, it's done, it's gone. I don't, what was it about? It was a selection of writings from different religions, all the major religions, and from some non-dual perspectives, like psychology and the movie The Matrix, a couple of different things. And it kind of had I wrote my own thread through it. And I think that one of the key themes was that I talked about what was worthwhile and what was impossible. And basically it repeats what I said earlier, that the worthwhile is what you can actually do. You can do practices, you can do attentional things, put your attention in certain places and come to know yourself, your own being. And I use the word I am. And anyone can do that. And that's worthwhile. It makes your life, hopefully you live more effectively if you're coming from your sense of being rather than your sense of anxiety. And that's worthwhile. But then there's the impossible. So the impossible really, you can't really achieve. It just comes down as grace or whatever. And that's where that I am, that I amness, the I drops out of the I amness. And that's kind of the theme of the book. And I try to present writings that show those two sides, the I am and the beyond the I am. And I think that's what the book is about. It's still a really good book. It still sells, not as well as it used to, but it sells regularly. And I haven't really had an interest in writing anything else since then. More interested in doing groups and other activities with non-duality. My radio show, I don't know if I mentioned my radio show, it's on Wednesdays at 12:30 Eastern Time. Go to nonduality.net. And I'm not asking for donations, just listeners. I never made any money in this game.
Okay. So in terms of, so if you had to define non-duality to someone who doesn't know about it? How would you define it?
That's the great question, you know. And we have monthly meetings or weekly meetings now. And in every meeting, we try to define non-duality. And also on our radio show, Nonduality Network Talk Radio, on Wednesdays at 12:30 Eastern Time at nonduality.net with Mandy LaBelle. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, we have to. Actually, the radio station requires us to define non-duality in each show. They say, look, listeners don't know what this is. So we tend to do that. And when Mandy defines it, she goes with the experiential. She says it can't be defined. It's got to be lived and known. But I'm a kind of guy who will, and of course I agree with her, but I, just for the contrast, I try to give definitions that are, you know, literal, more literal definitions. And in fact, there's no dictionary that defines non-duality. There might be one or two. But, you know, there are definitions of non-duality, there are anti-definitions, there are undefinitions, and there are non-definitions. And, you know, an anti-definition is like at the Science of Non-Duality conference when James Schwartz said, go home, leave the conference, get out of here, you know, who cares what non-duality is? And then there's non-definition. It's like an anti-definition. And there's non-definitions like Stephen Walensky said at the Science of Non-Duality conference. He said there's no such thing as non-duality. It's kind of a non-definition. Then there's undefinitions. You know, I'm not sure what they are. Like, you know, there's undefinitions. Then there's the regular definitions. Then there's experiential ones. But no one knows what it is. I mean, it means non-separation. So if you just contemplate non-separation, and you realize that to contemplate it, you have to be separate. You just fall into an emptiness, because kind of you know, the mind kind of stops. It's like a koan. So there are all kinds of ways of defining non-duality. Never stops. It has to do something with living from a sense of being, non-separation.
So have you read like any of Guru's famous or not so famous, like read their books or attended seminar or maybe like satsang or maybe like whatever they have, retreats?
Yeah, I mean, I don't go to a lot of them. I always enjoyed Osho, Rajneesh back in the 80s, 70s and 80s. I enjoyed Dafri John. They were useful to me. Thomas Merton was useful to me. Who else am I thinking? Paul Reps, I always liked one or two of his books. But as far as the modern people, I mean, they're all good. They're all just a lot of good people out there. I wouldn't want to name any, but some of the best people, going back to NondualitySalon, the email forum on Yahoo groups, some of the best people are on that group, you know. I mean, you included and many others. They're just not known. They never went out there publicly. People like Dan Burkow, who's a phantom. I mean, he comes, he goes. He could easily be one of the, you know, publicly one of the top best-known people. Just doesn't care, is not interested in it. And you know, Gene Poole and Judy Rhodes totally dropped out. Apparently, they might have small followings. I don't know what everyone's doing, but I'm not aware of what they're doing. Greg Good, everyone knows what Greg Good is doing. He's doing well, and he has a nice public profile. And you know, there are so many others, dozens of people like that. And we had the privilege, and still have the privilege of hanging out with them. People like Yosi, Jan Barendrecht, all the current people that are writing now. Who's on there? Who's writing now? I mean, you, Gio, and who else is out there?
Pete. I think Pete also writes from time to time.
Pete Sierra is like a #1 guy. Yeah, he's one of the top people. Pete Sierra. I forgot Pete. Sorry, Pete. And everyone. I don't want to get Pete getting mad at me. I don't know if you ever remember the time early on in Non-duality Salon, I said something about Germany or something. It wasn't. I guess I was misunderstood, or I didn't say something nicely. Later that day, 30 people from Germany signed on to the Non-Duality Salon group to give me hell. So, you know, I've got enemies out there. I'll have many more, hopefully, you know, not too many.
Okay. So do you have any like non-duality or any other group that you hang out with in the area you are?
Yeah, I am. We have a group called Non-Duality Satsang. It's a local group. We have I guess there's about 300 people are signed up to it. Maybe there's 50 to 70 or so active people, something like that. Anyone that wants to find out about it, you can go to nonduality.ca. Go to nonduality.ca for my local meetup group. Nonduality.net for the radio show. What else do I have going? Yeah. Yeah, we have a local group. I mean, again, the people in there, James Travers is in it. You interviewed James a couple days ago. He's one of the key people in it. And we've got several people, you know, like him. Not like him in the way that they speak or the way they teach, but on that level of, you know, awareness and consciousness. Several people. I mean, it's an amazing group of people, just here in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And anyone, anywhere, wherever you are, if you get the right kind of group going, you can find the same. You can find people wherever you are. We have kind of a sister group in Auroville, India, in southern India, and they run a group similar to what we're doing. It's kind of a group without a leader. It's not grounded in a tradition. It's just people coming together and talking from this place of knowing, being. And that's Anamika, and who you should interview, DJ Vase, who I've interviewed, his wife Cecilia, and they have a nice group there. But it's not easy to hold a group without one leader, without being grounded in a tradition, without it being, you know, satsang with so and so, satsang with, you know, add your favorite name. But just to have a satsang for the people that are there. A group like that isn't easy to hold, to maintain. People tend to want to defer to an authority. They don't tend to, I don't know if they don't trust themselves or whatever, but, you know, it's got to be satsang with Eckhart Tolle, satsang, you know, an Eckhart Tolle group, or I don't know, an Arvind Singh group, thousands of them around. There's, you know, it's a Ramana Maharshi group, but no one can have a group that's just a group. I don't know what people are afraid of. It's like, just start it. That's what I've always done. Even my non-duality salon, it was never founded in anything except non-duality and the ordinary person's understanding of it. I never felt the need to resort to a guru, a sage. I mean, who cares? I mean, yes, they're gifted and they should be studied, yeah, but everyone has their own self, their own sense of being, their own I am. That is the guru. And then, sure, you access other teachers that are out there. You access everything to learn more, to be you know, nudged along. That's my whole work. Just trust yourself, be responsible for yourself. Everything's there. You don't have to go outside of that.
How long have you known Sandeep?
Pardon? Sandeep?
Yeah.
Ever since he came on to Non-Duality Salon, probably, you know, maybe late 90s, 2000, something like that. And he expresses himself very, very well. He's a strange guy, but I don't really know him personally. But in a way I do. But he's a brilliant guy, yeah. And people love him. Why do you ask about Sandeep?
Oh, no, because once he mentioned that he had known you for quite a while.
Yeah.
And he was one of the, I think even when the group was kind of small,
yeah,
I think he was one of the members.
Sandeep, another guy, another, whatever you want to call him, self-realized expresser, confessor. Another, I mean, the people most people know are the well-known people, the Scott Killebys, the Adyashantis, Francis Lucille's, all those people. But there are so many people with that same knowing and who can express themselves well. that just aren't don't have the calling to keep a high profile.
Yeah.
And the main person is whoever's listening to this. It's oneself.
Yeah, yeah.
That's where I always come from.
Definitely. So thank you very much, Jerry ji. I greatly appreciate
You're welcome. Thank you.
giving me time. And if you want to add anything, any concluding remark, anything?
I only just watch or listen to our radio show. I shouldn't. I'm overdoing it now. But yeah, go to nonduality.com for any of the. If you're interested in anything I do. There's only one person you should pay attention to. That's yourself, and then but second to me. You only pay attention to me, and then yourself. Me and Arvind. You're doing great, Arvind. I think that you really, like I said, I wrote a note that you're breaking ground in the interview game. You're really opening it up with this Google Hangouts. I'm going to have to rip you off, or just let you do the interviews. You do a great job. Keep doing them. I encourage you. I'll keep publicizing them if that helps. And this is a big thing. This is because you don't have a lot of people doing interviews, and you're doing all kinds of people, the small people, the people like me, the nobodies, the nothings. If you're enlightened, you got to call yourself a nothing and a nobody, right? So that's why I'm a nobody. You're supposed to say, no, you're a somebody. Anyway, you're interviewing everyone. Keep doing it. It's great. And have fun doing it.
Thank you very much, Jerry. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Arvind.
Bye.
See you, man.
Bye.
Hang up.